The story of Social Security in the United States is one of constant evolution, adaptation, and adjustment to both technological change and the realities of a diverse population. For nearly 9 decades, the system has served as a lifeline for retirees, disabled workers, survivors, and millions of dependents, but each generation faces new questions about access and fairness. In 2025, the issue that has stirred the most discussion is the new identity verification system, the changes proposed by the Social Security Administration, and the lingering uncertainty about how beneficiaries will navigate their rights when the telephone verification options many relied upon appear to be shifting toward an online-only framework. The announcement that a significant change would take effect in August 2025 sparked a wave of confusion and even panic, especially among older Americans who heard or read that they might permanently lose access to their benefits if they fail to act in time. For those who rely on monthly checks to survive, the fear was palpable. Rumors about August 31st being a hard deadline spread rapidly online, sometimes exaggerated, sometimes misinterpreted, and often blended with real regulatory filings that did indeed outline new requirements for how beneficiaries prove their identities. The context begins with the administration's effort to enhance security and prevent fraud. Social Security has long been a target for scammers who impersonate officials over the phone or use stolen personal information to redirect payments. In response to rising reports of fraud and the risk of massive losses, officials began testing a security authentication PIN system. This system, called SAP in regulatory language, was designed to give each beneficiary who opted in a special code tied to their record. By using this code, callers could prove their identity faster and with fewer risks than the traditional series of personal questions about mother's maiden name, birth date, or prior addresses. In theory, the PIN would save time, reduce errors, and keep accounts safer. The problem arose when the initial proposals indicated that such a system could become mandatory, eliminating the ability to use simpler phone verification methods for millions of people who either cannot or will not create online accounts. Advocacy groups such as the AARP, the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, and community organizations across the country immediately raised alarms. They pointed out that about 1 in 4 older Americans never go online at all, whether because of lack of internet access, lack of digital literacy, or health conditions that make the use of computers and smartphones difficult. In rural areas, the issue is compounded by geography. Some beneficiaries live hundreds of miles away from the nearest Social Security field office, and with more than 1,000 offices already closed or downsized over years, access is not equal across the country. For someone living in a remote part of Alaska or the Mountain West, being told to visit your local office is not a simple instruction. It can mean days of travel, expensive tickets, and a burdensome ordeal that many elderly or disabled individuals cannot manage. Thus, when reports emerged that phone verification might be eliminated after August 31st, people feared that losing online access would mean losing benefits entirely. The Social Security Administration eventually clarified that the new PIN system will be optional, not mandatory. They acknowledged the concerns raised by advocates and withdrew the harsher parts of the proposal. However, the language of regulatory filings and news reports had already planted seeds of doubt, and many ordinary Americans remain confused. For them, the phrase starting in August 2025 carried a weight of urgency that was not easily dispelled. A key aspect of the confusion is that the agency did in fact file documents predicting that if the new verification system were rolled out broadly, as many as 3.4 million additional people might be forced into in-person office visits each year because they could not or would not complete the identity proofing online. That estimate was based on experience with earlier changes in which stricter rules required people to appear with photo identification and documents rather than resolve matters by phone. Critics saw this as a warning sign that even if the PIN system remained optional at first, the long-term trend was clearly toward restricting phone service and forcing migration online. The implications are not trivial. Social Security serves more than 70 million Americans, and even a small percentage encountering barriers translates into millions of real lives disrupted. Imagine a 78-year-old widow in a rural county who receives survivor benefits based on her late husband's earnings record. She has never used a computer and communicates with her children mostly through landline calls. When she hears that the SSA will require an online account by August 31st to maintain her access, she panics. She does not know how to open an account, does not trust entering her social security number on a website, and cannot drive 2 hours to the nearest office. Her fear is that she will wake up in September to find her payment frozen. In reality, the agency has not said payments would stop in such a scenario, but the uncertainty is enough to create stress, anxiety, and widespread misinformation. Why does the administration pursue these changes despite the backlash? The answer lies in the constant tension between security and accessibility. Fraud has been a growing problem, with criminals increasingly sophisticated in stealing benefits. Once an account is compromised, funds can be rerouted into fraudulent bank accounts, and recovery is slow and painful. The SSA has to balance protecting taxpayer money and safeguarding individuals with maintaining open channels for the most vulnerable. Modern security experts argue that knowledge-based verification, the traditional system of asking for mother's maiden name or previous addresses, is hopelessly outdated in an era when personal data leaks have exposed billions of records worldwide. A PIN system, or a multi-factor authentication system tied to an online account, is considered far more robust. Therefore, from a cybersecurity standpoint, the push is logical. The question is whether the infrastructure and social support exist to ensure that no one is left behind. The weeks leading up to August will likely see continued discussion, clarification, and perhaps more confusion. But regardless of the exact dates or details, the direction of change is unmistakable. Social Security is entering a new era where digital identity is the cornerstone of participation. The question for America is not whether this transition will happen, but whether it can be managed in a way that honors the dignity of every beneficiary, from the youngest disabled worker to the oldest retiree. If that balance can be struck, then the program will continue its proud tradition of adapting to new challenges while protecting the people it was built to serve.